Hello, everybody. Welcome to the most recent and probably your new favorite podcast about motorsports. This is Azul Volante.
Good morning, good afternoon, and why not good evening? Here we are back again on track. We are,
Azul Volante.
first of all, as usual, I'm going to introduce my friend, one of the best engineers I have ever met. His name is.
João Barata, and a little exaggeration there.
No, let me tell you that I know a lot of engineers
Oh,
because of
I
my
thought
work.
you were going. I thought you were going to say that. Well, I know 3 engineers, so.
Yeah, because of my work, I know a lot of you. Okay. And I am Diego. I'm directly from Buenos Aires, Argentina, South America. Just a curious guy sharing interests, passions, and what else, Joao?
And motorsports in general.
Great. Good definition. And what are we going to comment today?
Well, this will be a tough one, or an interesting one maybe, but tough because people are very extreme. But we will talk about the Italian GP or Formula
Yes.
1.
hmm Formula One, Italian GP, another time checking or, I don't know, adjusting the sprint race qualifying system. This time it was a little bit intense than before.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the word to define it?
Well, yeah, I think compared to Silverstone, it was the sprint qualifying and maybe 2 or 3 more points of interest, but it's due to Monza being a track that is more prone to fights and overtakes and to confusion in the first lap with those tight corners. But yeah, besides the commercial advantage of having the pre-qualifying, we could say, on Friday, and so it's one more day of interest, I'm not seeing any advantage per se for us, at least regarding the sprint qualifying. Maybe there is an indirect advantage, that is the time they don't have to setting up the cars. Maybe that's why in this race and also on the Silverstone one, we had some interesting things in the GP itself. Like I remember in Silverstone, we had that amazing pace of Ferrari with Charles Leclerc. Maybe that was due to the getting the setup right in the beginning, and the other teams struggled a little bit more, and they have a few time to do it in this kind of weekends. And also in this race, we saw that McLaren also had an awesome pace. We also know that this track suits them, but it was marvelous. So yeah, mixed feelings about this weekend format. And you?
Well, first of all, I have to say that I remember that last time we spoke about sprint qualifying, you said about the setup thing. And I haven't noticed that, in Silverstone. And now, paying attention to that specific thing, I came to the conclusion that you are right, that this thing of the sprint race gives possibilities to another teams to develop better setup strategies. Not top teams. And absolutely, I agree that it makes with more possibilities for others. But on the other hand, I must say that finally we saw what have been not wanting to see. Pierre Gasly ruined his qualification in order to fight for a better place in the grid. And finally, he came last. That is the thing that can happen in this kind of qualification. This quali is very commercial and very spectacular, but in a way can be good for a few teams, but it can be the end of the weekend for the ones who risk too many.
Yeah,
That is my opinion. Especially, we've got to discuss and speak a little bit more about this sprint quali. But sorry, those are my feelings.
Yeah, I think you are right in a sense, because maybe the teams that usually start in the first places of the grid, like Mercedes and Red Bull in this case, will not have to risk so much because they are still in the front of the field and they can have that steady pace and they will be gone. And well, the others on the back have to risk more to try to gain an advantage. Yeah, that happened to Gasly. Well, not in that sense, but Perez also suffered from that in Silverstone, if you remember. Like he spun
Yes.
and then he had to start from the back. So in that sense, it's not so good because it compromises all the weekend. But yeah, maybe they could. I don't know, but maybe the sprint could be. And I think there are talks about that. Maybe the sprint could be like an event without a connection to the main one, and so the grid defined on Friday would be the grid for Sunday also, and on Saturday I don't know. They would do another thing.
You mean like other series, like WTCR, for an example? They do only one, or they used to, because they are doing two qualies now, but they used to do one quali that was used for two races, and there was no connection between first race and second race. Something like that, I can understand you're saying.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, could be, but that also would mean that the Saturday race is not as important or could be irrelevant for the Grand Prix, which I think it's not what the organizers are looking. They are wanting to have important action on Saturdays. We'll see. We'll see. In this case, I think apart from what we have commented, I think we had like a spoil, like a false trailer of the race. We saw the difficulties to overtake. We saw a few accidents, and in a way, the sprint race gave us a kind of what is going to happen tomorrow. Destroyed the surprise element.
Yeah, we had because we in the sprint race. Well, first we have to say that Bottas did a great job on Friday. Let's just get it out of the of the schedule. And then on Saturday, we were thinking we would have like even when I thought that well Mercedes will say to Bottas to let Hamilton pass and da da da. But then Hamilton decided to well I will do a really poor start here and spice up the weekend for everybody. It was great for the competition, but it was a mistake from Hamilton and one that may have cost him a lot of points because he should have won the sprint race and then he should have won the main race and that would be precious points in the fight for the title. And we know how that happened on Sunday.
In a very surprising way. I think no one was waiting for it. Hamilton wasn't doing a good work, as you said. We saw him on Saturday. I was commenting with you, and I was very surprised that Bottas were in the front. In fact, I thought it was Hamilton. When I put my glasses on, I finally came to the conclusion that it was Bottas. Sorry. And well, first mistake, and after that came the tires thing. A very unexpected life of the tires. Things didn't went well for the ones that have chose the majority of the teams that have chose for the race, for the main race, the intermediate tire. And only Hamilton using in the start, am I right? The hard compound.
Yeah, at least for those guys from the front, yeah, it was the only one. Seemed odd at the time. And well, and I thought that it was even worse because it could compromise his start again. But in fact, he made not a really good start, but a much better one at least than the day before. And he could, he gained the position to Norris. And then he made another mistake, I think, because he knows how Verstappen races. He knows he's like Ayrton Senna style of, well, or we crash, or you will not. I will put you in the position that you will decide if we crash or not. And well, he tried to go on the outside, and of course Verstappen didn't give him space, and because of that, I'm not saying that what Verstappen did is right or wrong, but he knows it will go that way, or he should at this point. And because of that, he lost the position again to Norris. And so it was the second mistake of the weekend for him. Yeah, in a weekend that he wasn't performing very well. So I found it odd because usually Lewis, when under pressure, performs very well. So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, what did you think about that first? We could say incident between them and their first laps.
Really worried is the word. Really worried about pit stops because both teams, I am referring to Mercedes and Red Bull, did a bad work there. And first Red Bull, and then with a rear tire. First Red Bull with a rear tire. Also Mercedes with a rear one. I don't remember really well, but they did wrong. They did not a good work, and as a conclusion of that, on the track, even if Verstappen was doing a better work, they were not going to encounter in that way, just in this escape of the pits. I don't know how to say it, in the outer street of the pits. I don't know. Both teams made mistakes to produce that encounter on track, and well, you really have described it. That's what happened. And finally, and once more, we have to say thank you to the Halo, even if we don't like. I don't know if you. I don't. I still don't like it, but it did its work. Like last year with Grosjean, last Sunday did it with Hamilton.
Yeah, for sure.
It was a very, very strange crash. I mean, speed wasn't a top one, but finally one car, the Red Bull, finished on the Mercedes.
I find it impressive how the FIA concludes that there's no need to remove those sausage curbs. Because first they had the awesome idea of putting them in the last corner in the Parabolica some years ago. And do you remember what happened in Formula 3, Diego?
In Formula 3, I remember there was an accident. One of those sausage, you said,
yeah,
made a car almost
fly.
I don't know.
It flew away from the track and onto the woods. And so they after that they thought maybe this is not good in a fast corner. Well, we can now understand that it is also not good in a slow corner, because if it wasn't for that type of curve, maybe they could have even continued the race. Maybe they would have just touched wheels or something. I don't know, but for sure Verstappen wouldn't end up on the top of Hamilton's head. And
that is true. It probably it would have finished like a crash, perhaps a hard crash, but not that kind of.
They are at 50 kilometers an hour in that corner. It's ridiculous. How a crash at 50 kilometers an hour could have ended in a death if it wasn't for the halo, and also that thing that they call Sant Antonio in the top. I don't know the name in English. On the top of the head of the pilot that makes the car being taller. I don't know the name in English.
I don't know. Sorry.
But that did also the job of not letting the car land on top of Hamilton's head. So I think it's really amazing for me how the FIA has reached the conclusion that we can continue using this. It's pretty okay, fine. I don't understand.
I think it is someone who still is being missed
Oh yeah.
in at the race direction room. We both know that. Sorry, I do not remember his name. We still miss him. Charlie Waiting. I think he wouldn't let this kind of curves in these corners. Still, someone who knows much more about Formula cars is being needed in race direction. Masi, this guy, I think he knows his work, but his experience was done with tourism cars. So,
Oh, I didn't know about that.
yeah, with Super Tourism Australia. I don't know the name of the series. Muscle Cars series Australia. Let me look for it.
V8 supercars, maybe.
That is.
Okay.
That is.
Okay. But yeah, and also you have to talk about the incident itself. And if in Silverstone, I thought it was a racing incident, but maybe with 51% of the blame on Lewis Hamilton, I will now switch. But I will rule it also as a racing incident between two guys that are fighting for the title and want to be in front of each other. And well, I give 51% of fault to Verstappen, but both incidents without having the need for a penalty, maybe. And I think it's interesting because it seems that the penalties come more from the consequences than for the actions itself. Because, well, in Silverstone it was a very high speed and very dangerous because of the impacts that Verstappen received, and now it's like, yeah, almost Hamilton maybe was not very far away from having a serious injury also. And yeah, I don't know, but it's interesting because I saw and I mentioned it very many times here. I listened to a podcast, a Brazilian podcast, and the guy, a journalist, and he's very very good, and he listed this crash as another and the third and final mistake for Hamilton, and it's very interesting to think about it because it's not that it was his fault, but he knows he can't give an inch of space to Verstappen, so he should have done what Verstappen did to him in the first lap. And he would got away of that corner on front of Verstappen and recovered points in the championship. Because the fact is, if in Silverstone Verstappen was the one that lost, here is Hamilton for the fight for the championship. He should have recovered some points there. And so by not closing the door, like going wide there and making Verstappen cut the corner, it just gave him enough space for Verstappen to think, well, I will try this. And again, he knows, or he should know, that Verstappen is like this. He's, yeah, how do you say, implacable, or something like that. Yeah. And so yeah, he gave him the space. It's a situation that Verstappen really has nothing to lose, or he makes the overtake and Hamilton backs down and psychologically is awful, or Hamilton doesn't back down and they crash. It's like the Senna thing again. And yes, so they crash because Hamilton will not back down, and I think he can't because it would be only adding up like psychologically. But the mistake from him, I think, it wasn't an intelligent move from him. I think that is the thing.
I agree. Verstappen was doing a proposition. I think he was saying, okay, let's go away in the same condition we have arrived. And Hamilton must have said, no, let's talk a little bit more about this. But he said, okay, let's do it. And, both went away from Monza with the same quantity of points when they have arrived. So, in a way, as you said, Hamilton gets out in a worse position. And about Verstappen penalty, it is only because the FIA had to say something.
Yeah.
We cannot say nothing. We've got to say something. Okay, let's say this. Okay, it is politically correct.
No, and both penalties are like, yeah, it's. I understand, like, and I think that, well, in this one, 51%. Maybe we can go because 51. It's also 55 for Verstappen, and in Silverstone, 55 for Hamilton. Well, I think it's a difference, or when it's really hard to understand who was really most at fault, or by a large margin, we can conclude that it was a racing incident and not penalize everything. It seems like they are scared to declare things as racing incidents. There are no racing incidents anymore. So, well, if this guy was a little bit more to blame, we will give him a penalty. Well, okay. That's an interesting view of things.
Absolutely. And that incident opened the race again. Strategies, contenders, the race began again in a way without the championship leaders. So it was time to risk. Who did the better move?
Well, the great thing here is for McLaren with the 1-2. But the interesting thing is that when Hamilton and Verstappen crashed, Ricciardo was first and Norris second. And I don't believe they would be overtaken by those guys. Maybe Hamilton could get Norris, but even so, he was the first half of the race behind him and couldn't even try a move. He didn't even try, I think, once. He just wasn't able to. So it's a McLaren win, but it's like a real one. It didn't fell on their lap.
You say it is not like
Pierre Gasly last year.
yeah, I was going to say Toro Rosso, but it's not like AlphaTauri last Monza victory.
Yeah,
Not the same style.
Of course.
It was a chest to chest victory, not because the main actors were out of the stage.
Yeah, and so I think it was fair and square. They have a lot to celebrate, and Ricciardo, well, what a comeback for him.
Absolutely.
When he was needed, he was there. I don't believe that Monza is representative of his troubles, so I'm very interested to see what will happen in the next race, because I expect him to not be so strong again. But maybe the mental factor could make the balance in his favor again, because, well, that's a very important thing, as we know. So maybe after a win, things go much better. But yeah, I don't believe that Monza is a representative track for his troubles. We will have to see and wait for the next one.
Okay, so we can wait in first level again Mercedes and Red Bull, and again Sochi in a second group, McLaren, Ferrari, Aston Martin again. And that is what you are saying. I think.
The McLaren in the same level.
Yeah, again in the second group. No, not
Oh
in the
yeah.
top.
No, yeah. Exactly. And probably Norris beating Ricciardo again. So yeah. But the also another thing regarding Verstappen penalty is that maybe Red Bull will take that opportunity and give him a new engine.
Yeah, you said so. It would be a cheap business for him, I think. Okay, 3 places in the grid. Okay, doesn't matter. Let's do it right now. Let's do a kind of major undercut.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree.
And also, it starts usually the third or the fourth guy end up being the first corner in first, so it wouldn't be like a disaster.
Absolutely. They have to trust their drivers. They have to trust my commentary. It is completely a part of what we were saying before, but they have to trust a little bit more in Checo Perez also.
Yeah. They ruined his weekend to give a toe to Verstappen.
Absolutely, they are doing second driver sacrifice almost every week.
Yeah. Well, and it's really the same for Bottas. It just didn't went really well because Hamilton I don't know why. That was another thing that journalist that I listened to the podcast said. Bottas was the first one, and Hamilton was following, but somehow he didn't get. He just opted to not get the toe, and so yeah, it was not a wise choice because Bottas was the one on front in the front.
Absolutely. So, what remains? I mean, what are the conclusions for this extremely interesting weekend?
Well, the conclusions are that maybe Hamilton lost an important opportunity to recover some points. We had another, how do you say, not necessary polemic thing. It just isn't that. Well, we are watching guys racing at 300 kilometers per hour and fighting for a championship. Well, in fact, that crash was at 50, but okay. But the pressure is there. They want to beat each other, and we know that incidents will happen. And I don't know if this will be the last one this year. How things are going, it doesn't seem like that. So get ready. and I really was, when I saw them crash, I was really happy because I knew that McLaren probably would win. So I was very excited, and it's I think it's amazing the fight we are seeing, and we have to enjoy and not be worried about who is right or who is wrong, because we don't have a fight like this since a long time.
Absolutely, absolutely. We are having a great championship. I cannot remember one like this one since Schumacher years. Well, no.
And that's it. For the Italian GP.
Okay, Joao, are we ready to say goodbye?
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
And we will come back with MotoGP. We are not forgetting MotoGP.
No, I was just going to ask you about that. So next week we will be very, very busy with motorsports,
Yeah,
especially with
it's the
MotoGP.
usual thing. Yeah, that's true.
Okay, Joao, time to say goodbye. Thank you very much indeed, and see you next week.
See you. Bye.